Should I? All right, I'm Cole Schoen.
Travis Stang.
Sam Deans.
Ann Stain.
Anthony Morrow.
Ashley DeMarais. Awesome. All right, whenever you guys are ready, we are all yours.
Now, we have all thought about where we're going to go to college and what we're going to do after high school, what we want for a job and what we want to do for a living. But something that we haven't thought about very commonly, but is a part of our everyday lives, is our gender identity. Now, everyone has a sexuality, so that means everyone has a gender identity. And this is becoming a major subject, and it's affecting our everyday lives, but we don't really think about it a whole lot. So, we're going to look at the definitions of gender identity, what falls under gender identity, and the legalities that aid and restrict people who struggle with their gender identities. Travis has the definition of gender identity.
So the definition of gender identity is what you're given at birth, which is either male or female. And that's going to be assigned to you for the rest of your life. And it's either going to fit you or it's not going to fit you. And the majority of people, it's going to fit them and they're going to be heterosexual. And if it doesn't, the biggest reason why it does not fit them is because they feel that the two-gender system is too limiting to them. And that's when they go out and try and experiment with other sexual preferences. People that start to think about gender identity and they feel uncomfortable about their gender identity tend to lean towards the bisexual nature of it.
There are many factors that create your gender identity, and this is according to the article Intersex from Medline Plus Medical Encyclopedia from the U.S. National Library of Medicine, published in 2012. And these characteristics include neural, behavior, psychological, chromosomal, and societal factors, that all of these factors play a large role in the creation of your gender identity. And now that we've looked at the definition and some factors of gender identity, we will now begin to speak about the various gender identities that make up the field of gender identity.
A common gender identity is heterosexual, according to the American Heritage Dictionary of English, 4th edition, published on 2000 by Houghton Mifflin. Heterosexual is defined as a person attracted to another person of the opposite sex. About 97% of people identify themselves as a heterosexual. Another common gender identity is homosexual, which Anne will be talking about.
According to the Columbia Electronic Encyclopedia from the Columbia University, which was last updated in 2011, homosexuality is defined as the term where someone feels sexual and emotional attraction to members of one's own sex. Gary J. Gates also states in his article from the Williams Institute School of Law in California, which was last updated in April 2011, that there are about 9 million people in the United States who are identified as gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transsexual, also known as LGBT, and the number of LGBT people continue to increase each year. Of the 9 million people, 1.7% are homosexuals. So roughly 630,000 people in the United States are identified as gay or lesbian. This is also roughly the size of the population of Minneapolis and St. Paul. But just because you are homosexual doesn't mean that you can't live a normal life. So Neil Patrick Harris, an American actor who starred in the movie How I Met Your Mother, is also openly gay. And in Neil Patrick Harris' fan website, which was last updated in 2011, it states that Neil Patrick Harris is proud to be a homosexual and has been in a committed relationship with David Burtka since 2004. And in 2010, they stated that Mr. Harris and Mr. Burtka are going to be, in 2010, that they're going to be proud parents of identical twin boys through a surrogate mother. So just because you are homosexual does not mean that you can't live a normal life with your family and your kids. Because there'll still be two parents, and they'll just have to split the roles of mother and father between them. heterosexuality and homosexuality are the most common types of gender identities, but there are some other identities that are still relatively common.
According to Dr. David Delvin and Kristen Weber from the article Transvestites and Cross-Dressing from netdoctor.net, published on the 7th of December 2012, a transvestite is a male that dresses in women's clothing. Now, that being said, the term transvestite usually describes a mental illness. So it usually means they have some kind of fetish or something like that. So a lot of transvestites prefer the term cross-dressing, which does not imply a mental illness. And so this just means that they don't do it for erotic pleasure or any kind of fetish like that. They just admire and they want to imitate women, so they dress in women's clothing and they wear makeup and stuff like that. And it would take about 6 months for erotic reasons to be considered a mental illness, so that they can't really be considered a transvestite. They prefer the term cross-dresser if you're going to be politically correct. Now, in pop culture, in places where you may have seen transvestites or cross-dressers would be, if you've ever seen RuPaul's show, Drag Race, it is a competition that has cross-dressers in it. If you have ever seen the movie Rocky Horror Picture Show, which was included in the TV show's Glee, and was also in Perks of Being a Wallflower, that is based around a transvestite. So you can see a lot of transvestites in popular culture. And so now that we've taken a look at transvestites, Travis is going to tell us about what a transgender person is.
So the transgender person is they are differing from the stereotype of their opposite sex. And that would be called gender dysphoria, which I got from Transgender FAQ, Access, February 27th, 2013, copyright 2012. And with gender dysphoria, or the uncomfortableness in your own skin or your sexual gender, creates confusion for the person. And with a lot of the outside forces, which is pressure to conform to what the status quo is, so a guy is going to be more masculine or a woman's going to be more feminine. And something that could help this would either be hormones or sexual reassignment surgery. And a sexual reassignment surgery can be quite drastic. As this is Tim Petras, he is the youngest boy to ever get a sexual reassignment surgery. And so this is the before, and then the after would be Kim Petras. So this would be Tim to Kim, which is a very huge drastic change. And with the sexual reassignment surgery, she's going to be taking hormones for the rest of her life so she can live the lifestyle that she fully wants, which is the opposite sex. Now that we looked at some of the most common gender identities, we will look at some of the most uncommon gender identities.
One of these uncommon gender identities is intersex. And intersex is a term that is given to address a variety of conditions where a person has the sexual or reproductive anatomy that is not typically fit the definitions of male or female. And this is according to What is Intersex from the Intersex Society of North America's website, accessed in February of 2013. Another term for this is hermaphroditism, and there are 4 types of intersex, and those include 46XX intersex, which the person has a woman's chromosomes and ovaries, but has the appearance of outer genitalia being male. 46XY intersex, which is where you have male chromosomes, but you have incomplete genitalia or clearly female genitalia, and true nodal intersex, which is where you have both ovarial and testicular tissues, and then there is complex intersex or incomplete or undefined, which means that term is given to several different combinations of chromosomal configurations that are not quite as typical, and that is according to the article Intersex from Medline Plus Medical Encyclopedia from the U.S. National Library of Medicine, accessed in February of 2013. And intersex is a social definition that describes biological features, and it is a human cultures make normally two different categories, male and female, and sometimes intersex as their gender categories because it simplifies social interaction, but intersex is not a nature's definition. Nature does not decide where intersex begins, or like where males, the definition of male ends and where intersex begins, and where intersex ends and where female begins. It's usually doctors that make this decision, and it differs on each case depending on what type or what is present chromosomally or physically. And that is according to What is Intersex from the Intersex Society of North America, accessed in 2013. And in the recent years, things have been changing for parents making decisions on what gender their intersex child should be. Originally, it had been thought that you should make it your decision on which gender your child should be as quickly as possible based on external factors, not so much chromosomal factors. And now it is more known to parents to take more time in deciding whether or not they should have their child be a male or a female at birth because of chromosomal and neural and behavioral factors as mentioned in the definition and factors of gender identity. And this is according to the article Intersex from Medline Plus Medical Encyclopedia from U.S. National Library of Medicine. And now that we've talked about one uncommon type of gender identity, it is time for Anthony to talk about another uncommon type of gender identity, which is asexualism.
Asexuality is one of the least recognized forms